Hello, theme park enthusiasts and horror fans, and welcome back to Planet Coaster 2 and to my Graves Point Park. So, in this video, we are going to go ahead and continue with the town of Graves Point here, doing a little bit of changes. You could see there I adjusted the top of the school, just wanted to change it a little bit. Now, I will say, in all honesty, at this point, I have actually completed the town. I'm just going back in and doing the voiceover for the episodes and such. I really am excited with the way it turned out, so hopefully you like it as well because I really am pleased with what I got. So just little adjustments going on here. There's going to be another adjustment to the school in the end because I realized that I did not care for the name of the school as I had put it. Academy doesn't really work, and I really want to steer away from something that's going to be considered like Wednesday lore or Wednesday themed or something of that nature. So what I will be changing that. That's probably going to be in the last episode of the series, though. I think we're going to probably, like I said, I've recorded everything, so I know what I have. I'm going to probably try to divide this into 3 videos in total. There's going to be this video, one more that's going to be focused pretty much solely on the sort of some of the housing and stuff. Another one then that will be housing as well as work on the trees and stuff of the area and so on. And that one will conclude with the AI generated image that I created based on what I've done here with this map. Now, this map is going to be available on the workshop, so if you want, you can go into it. You can play around with it yourself on Steam. As I said, this is basically, I'm really wanting people to enjoy it for whatever they want to do with it. And if you become interested in my books, I will be letting everybody know when I publish the books and such. So if you like the book series in the end, then by all means, you might want to have this so that way you can explore the town. Because really, I'm going to be looking back at my map and such here when I am describing and creating within the books themselves. So it gives you something where you can sort of look at it and really get that feeling of the town. With that all being said, we went ahead here and continued to work on the hospital. With the hospital, I wanted to go ahead and put in the flooring entrances as well as some gates and such. The gates are going to change here in a little bit. And really looking back on this now that I've actually completed all the work on the game itself, it's sort of amazing to me because I know so many of the things that are coming. Like there's going to be a parking lot out in front of the hospital and stuff, and just the map looks so different now that everything's done, and I'm really quite happy with it overall. Um, the one thing I will say is I do wonder if it has enough actual houses and stuff in it for a town like I'm going to have with Graves Point in the books, but it is fiction, so I'm saying give me a little bit of slack on that. And at the same time, I am, as I said, using it more as inspiration instead of being exactly as it's going to be, kind of thing. So, as a little bit of slack, a little bit of grace on that, I would appreciate it. But yeah, very happy with how it turns out in the end. So we got the tile work done here. I end up a couple times having to put in garage doors onto the building because they did not go in, they did not stay after the first time I put them in. But I do put garage doors on the building as basically entrance for the ambulances for emergencies and such. They wouldn't be used in that way, but I had to do something with the building because I didn't like the way that it was as well. So they are there. Probably in the book, I would change that up some. I do like the height and the styling of the building for the hospital. I like the sort of old world feel that it has, and I feel like it's something that would in some ways be timeless, but at the same time would almost feel like it was out of a museum or something of that nature. And I really like that because I want, at a point I'm thinking in the future I will probably do a story that involves this building, and when I do, it's hopefully going to be playing on that history and horror that the building has. So we'll see how that goes in the end. Here, like I said, I was struggling a little bit with this because I really had to figure out what I wanted as far as a door and everything of that nature. I knew I wanted sort of a grand entrance here, so wanted something that was a little bit big. Probably not with fire on it, that doesn't really work hospital-wise, but I did like the, I sort of got paused mid-thought because of the fact that I had found this gate that I thought really worked for the other side here. And so with that, I went ahead and put it over here. I realized that the two fences that were by it just did not work. I could lower the fence down and such, but it still wasn't going to work for what I wanted as far as the other two pieces. But I liked the main part of the entrance there. So the other two pieces had to change. The gate was staying. So with that, we were able to get these other pieces that were basically supposed to be the little indoor gates for the overall piece, but I wanted to use them outside as sort of fencing. And so with that, they don't fit quite obviously. I had to adjust how I was doing it to make it work for what I wanted. Um, and I knew size was going to be a factor here. It's one of the things I will say, the more I've played with Planet Coaster 2, the more I've really enjoyed it, is I love how you can use size to your advantage, sort of in-game here, pardon me for that, but really you can adjust things as you want. Yes, I do have those two handles at the very top there and they're upside down, but again, this is fencing, those are decoration, they are not actually handles in the scenario I'm using them in. But yeah, as I said, I really love how you can change the sizing of things to make it work for what you're wanting, and it overall works so well together. Felt like the fence was a little bit out of line there, so I adjusted it. Playing around with a few different colors. I mean, the overall colors of the town are going to be sort of the blue and black, and you'll see those colors pop up again in places, not just in the school. But as I said, it's one of those that I did want to sort of have things that are also different at the same time. So with that, what I wanted to do with it is probably use the lore and have these be, before the town really got its own colors in the blue and the black there, have this building have this green color to it. Green is going to show up in a couple different places, so I was fine with the coloration to the building. Again, this is one of those buildings off the workshop, so I definitely wanted to use it as it was, but to go ahead and detail it out the way I want it. And that's what you're going to see with much of the town here is I'm using creations from the workshop. I'm not sort of doing everything myself, but each of the things that I do use will get a little tweak usually. It'll be adjusted in some way, shape, or form so that it fits more what I'm looking for in my location. And then, yes, we have the grand door, but I would also want some other doors on the building here. So just finding some that are more the appropriate normal doors that you would have on a building. So you have multiple access points and multiple egress points for people coming in and out to the hospital. Then we're going to flip these around. Again, one of the things I like to do in game, done it in Planet Coaster 1 as well, but definitely wanting to do it or getting used to it here in Planet Coaster 2 is sort of developing all the detail work with it. I have also gotten to where I really like using the editable text that is not in a sign, because then in some cases I'm putting it where there is a sign, and then I am uh yeah, I like the sign, but I don't like the text that comes with the sign or how the text is oriented on the sign. You'll see that in a couple different places. And so with that, what I'm doing is I'm going ahead and using the sign for the design I like, but then using this editable text so that I can place the text in the size and location that I want it in. With this, originally I was like Kingdom Hospital, but that definitely fit. That definitely is stealing from Stephen King in that way. I feel love his Kingdom Hospital series. If you haven't watched it, highly recommend it. It was entertaining and engaging, and really sort of I feel like was his way of dealing with the accident he was in at a point in time. So from there, I'm trying to think of different names that I could use for the hospital. Um, thought about using Craft Hospital sort of as an homage to Lovecraft. Didn't like it that much. Still not sure I like the final name that I got for the hospital, and that might just be one of those what I'm gonna have to do possibly. I put Night Hospital. What I'm really wanting is I want it to be Nightfall Hospital, I think. And I'll explain Nightfall probably, I think it's in the next video or the final video, not this one. But I'll just give the brief answer to it. What Nightfall is here is Nightfall is going to be the name of the county in which the town is located in New Mexico. Again, fictional county doesn't exist, but I feel like it sort of fits with what I'm wanting here. It gives that sort of eeriness to the whole area. Yes, most likely the townspeople are playing on the name, but at the same time, I want it to have that sort of eeriness that just makes people a little bit uncomfortable. So we have that going on. I'm pleased with it. I will say the editable text once in a while can be a pain in the butt as to getting it because it's sort of buried in the thing. Sometimes you have to delete the sign for a second in order to highlight the text so you can work on it, but works out in the end. Now here, I didn't go into a ton of detail for it, but this little area here is basically going to be a helipad. So that way, patients who are severely injured or needing more care than this hospital in the middle of nowhere can offer, there's a place for the helicopter to land. So with that, needed a place for the patients to come from because right now it's just a flat roof. The patients can't come out of the flat roof. So what I did is I just put a little bit of just like a little building here. What would be going on with this is that there would be like an elevator inside of this little area, and so that way the people could be brought up to the roof via the elevator. Probably I could have even put just like elevator doors on this, but I think I put a normal door. But yeah, that is the purpose of this whole situation here, is that it's an elevator lift area so that patients who are in need of transportation to a different hospital can get that transportation and be taken care of in that way. Yeah, I just put, like I said, a basic door on here. I could definitely go back and put on uh, some elevator-esque doors, but as I said, it's a very simple little building there. Whole purpose of it is simply to have it be where the people come from to get onto the elevator. And I figured white would be a good color here. I tried black, but didn't really like it. White to me felt right. Yes, it should have probably an H on it or something of that nature. But the point of it is really quite straightforward, that it is for the helicopter to be able to see very easily and for it to have a place to land so they can pick up the patients. Came back over here in the last episode. I said I might add a little bit more decoration. I really did like these heart hedges, so I decided to put those in here, one on each side, just to get the symmetry down. And I also did take care of the statue in the middle because I just didn't like it. Really, the statue would be made out of marble that's going to be in the park, but I got it as close as I could with what I had available. So you'll see that hopefully here in a few moments. But I used the princess statue because I felt like that fit more. It's got sort of almost an eeriness to it. You wonder who the girl is, and it creates that sense of unease to it. And I really do like that. I think it just works well overall. I did check out a few different fountains here just to see if there was something I really liked. Nothing really struck my fancy too much. I liked the lion piece there. So with that in mind, I sort of knew what I wanted to go with, and then I just needed to put the pieces into place. So want it nice and lowered, and then use that trick that Planet Coaster has of having it where you use the XYZ axis, and then you can just put the pieces inside one another and raise them up to the height, so that way they're centered on one another quite nicely. I like the way it looks. get the princess up here. Needed to work on her pretty much first because I needed her to fit the stand. I knew I wanted to use the lion piece, so I needed her to fit on there appropriately. I didn't want her really having a lot of overhang to her, so I needed to get that adjusted, and then everything else would get adjusted based on that. So I wanted to go ahead and expand this area some. I thought about doing it in a couple different ways, just seeing how I liked it as far as what height I wanted it at, everything like that. I sort of liked the shield showing, and I wanted the water to have a nice clear imagery to it, so I raised that up a little bit. Then we have the bowl had to be enlarged some, and see how that worked. Started taking a look at it from a distance, and I was feeling like the statue starts to get overwhelmed slightly by the other stuff going on, but I was really debating it. I really was not sure how I wanted to go with it. I did want to add definitely some water features to it, so some sprays coming out of the lion's mouth. Ironically, I put the spray in here so that way I could see where the jet would go, and I turned it on to play and find out the lion's mouths already have sprays coming out of them. So no need for mine. That goes away, and as I said, I feel like the statue and stuff is a little bit inappropriately sized here. The statue is supposed to be the focus after all, and I just felt like it wasn't. So yeah, I went ahead and made the base and stuff smaller, so that way the statue and the lion's heads are the focus. They do dribble right into that little basin there well enough, so I felt like that worked. And there I felt like now the statue is more the focal point instead of the lower pond area. So now I'm coming in here and deleting this stuff because I know that I want to put in something that is going to take up this space basically. I had found it on the workshop. I really loved the way it looked, so I wanted to use it. I was very impressed with what they had done with it, and I just go ahead and once again tweak it to fit what I need here and such. But yeah, I had to edit the road somewhat here in order to make it work, so we're doing that real fast. There is some road editing at the end of the series that you do not see on camera, but I will say I did do it. So there are a few lines that you may see toward the end that are not done to the same as everything else. Basically, if you look down this street here, you can see on the next block the dotted line goes through the intersection, where I want the dotted line to not go through the intersection because it is an intersection in the end. So I do go back and change that just so it's got a nice uniform look to it. Very pleased with really how it came out. I'm very pleased, as I said, with the town overall. It was pretty much 3 weeks of work to get this done. I did not play any other games, so the next time I say I'm playing Spider-Man, it is going to be the first time I've played a game really since I started on this project. And so with that, yeah, I'm actually somewhat nervous. I'm going to be a bit rusty on other games because I've just been on this for so long now. So we'll have to see how it goes. But yeah, wanted to delete this and make this area into a sort of a separate little area here. It doesn't have a back entrance anymore to it. It's going to have a front entrance that I'm setting up on the other side there. So that's why the lighting and stuff somewhat stays the same over here. I realized I put that in and I'm like, wait a second, that doesn't go because I need to still have the stop sign where it was, and I don't want it blocked by a road sign or by a light. So going into the ones that I found here, I need to find the hotel that I had found. Welcome to the Wilderness Hotel. Really love the way this thing looks, and basically I just needed to remove the one giant tree that wasn't going to fit. Everything else fits really nicely into the location I have for it, so delete that tree, and we've got a wonderful hotel. I love the sort of look of it. It reminds me somewhat of how I feel with a Great Wolf Lodge. If you've never been to one of those, it's a very interesting place. Especially, I recommend it if you have kids. I know that when our son is born, I'm going to look forward in a couple years to taking our son to the Great Wolf Lodge because it has an arcade and miniature golf and a climbing wall and an indoor water park and such. So it just really it's very family friendly overall, and it's sort of geared towards more having kids. My wife and I went to it. It was okay for the two of us. There was nothing particularly wrong with it. It was just one of those that it was definitely more for kids than it was for people our age. So, as I said, do recommend it. Not sponsored at all. Wouldn't mind being sponsored, but I really enjoyed the place. My wife really enjoyed the place. So it was something that I wanted another hotel. I didn't just want the one over by the water, and I wanted this other hotel to have something about it that made it where people would be interested in it, even though it wasn't right on the water. And yes, I know in the series here I am talking about water in a way where it's like it's it's not visible here. I understand that because what the water is here is basically just a little river. You will see though in the AI image in the end, which yes, I did have to make it an AI image because for one, I can't draw at all, and for two, I wanted to keep pretty much everything that I had worked on here, but at the same time, I wanted to have it be um, have that lake and such. So you'll see in that image what I'm talking about with it. So here, I wanted to go ahead and see what was on the website as far as the workshop that would sort of fit my needs for the things that I was wanting in the park. I was wanting a pool that really fit for this location, um, but I knew what I was working with as far as size and such. So I had to sort of be a bit cautious. I was hoping to find like a really heavy nature themed pool, something with rocks and trees and sort of the water slides go through the rocks down to the place and such. But all the ones that I was finding were just way too big. They were not going to work for what I needed. So I sort of set that to the side for a minute because I was like, okay, the hotel itself looks great, but the area around it definitely needs some work. Wanted to get rocks that fit with the ones that are by the hotel, so I went ahead and did that. And I wanted to sort of create a little bit of an entranceway here that was visually fitting with what the hotel was. Then we'll use just, as I said, some basic pools off of the game here. Not what I was hoping for per se, but I felt like they'll work. Again, it's more about having the luxuries with this place and such. So we've got a really nice water slide here, trying to connect the areas, and it is on different levels of land. So I end up having to remove and then replace this one to try to get it more in the same uh, level as the first one. So get that done, and then get those two connected. Didn't actually mean to delete the two of them. I had just sort of wanted to change the walkway between them because, as you can see, it's sort of having some odd break in it. And while again, this is not going to be a functional place, I do still want it to look functional. And so the path thing still is the bane of my existence. Still doesn't want to work for me as well as I'd like it to. But you know what? We got it at the end of the day working good enough. And I'd say, you know what? gonna use this area in the middle for some rock feature, because why not? So then I go back to placing rocks for a little bit here. Again, you see me jump around from one thing to the next some. Especially at this point in the build, I had so many ideas in my mind of what I wanted for the overall creation, and it was a matter of trying to get them all to work while trying to stay focused, and I was not doing a good job of staying focused. So with this, I wanted the sign. I like to sign over the thing. Did not feel like I needed to reinvent the wheel at all, so just putting that sign out front of the lodge here, and we'll put it on both sides. As I said, sort of form an entrance here. Nothing overly fancy, because I think that's sort of the charm of a place like this, is it doesn't have to go overly fancy. It's more about having that sort of rustic and mountain-oriented feeling to it, and it just seems like it fits in with the mountains around it, everything of that nature. Then I did want to have the area fenced off, because of course it would have fencing around, especially with the pools in the back and stuff. You just don't want random people from the town walking into the area and such. So with that, we go ahead and put in some fencing around it, just copying the one that I had over from the high school. And I didn't want it right up against the street, because again, trying to give this feeling of the location overall, I don't want everything butted straight up against the street. It just doesn't feel like it works properly. Did have to straighten the fence some, because it did not seem to align properly. Always have that happen when I use larger pieces like this. So got it to work there. Alignment was off here. Excuse me on that. Really tired, I don't know why. Slept well enough, so odd. But yeah, so we get the fence straightened there. Doesn't have to be straight from both sides, as long as it sort of covers the area and gives that security that I'm wanting. It works for me. We will have a fence all the way across the back, so that way people don't go into the swimming pool who aren't supposed to be here. And then we will have fencing across the front, but we're going to have that fencing have the opening, so that way people can get into the parking lot area. The fence did not fit exactly as I wanted, so in this particular corner, I just had to make it have that odd little jag there. And the way I took care of that was simply hiding it with some rock. Have the rock grow through it. It is supposed to be sort of artificial anyways, because again, it's just theming for the hotel. So I hit it there. It works fine for me. Don't know that it's there, and yeah, so that works. Again, I wanted to add in a little bit more rock work. I could have probably put in a waterfall or something here with this hotel. I didn't, and part of that was because of the fact that I knew it wouldn't actually be visible when I did the AI image, and so I didn't want to spend the time on doing that. In the description I put in the book, though, I very well might put something where there's a couple of small waterfalls that flow into the pools or something, just to give that feeling and ambiance to the place. Now on the front here, I didn't have to worry about hiding that chain link, because of the fact that I had the driveway as it was, so I could simply just remove the part for the driveway, and that worked fine. Here, again, I didn't want to take the whole location. I first wanted to see just how much lighting and stuff I was going to need. So that's why I did it with that first trial run. And now I'm coming back and removing the asphalt with it. Don't need those pieces. No need to up my count, my piece count for the overall build. Just isn't necessary. And so I removed those. Took what I felt like was going to be a good amount of spaces over. Realized again that still too much, but we will go ahead and edit it down. because I do want to have sort of pathways on both sides of the spaces here, so that way people can drive around to find a parking space. So, again, is this enough parking spaces for the size of the hotel? Very possibly not. But, I'm adding some in, and it is fictional. It is sort of just an inspiration, not an exact replica of how it's going to be. So, with that in mind, I felt like this works. There's room around the spaces well enough. I do want to adjust the spaces a little bit there just to make them sort of centered and proper looking in all directions. All right, so that's that for now. Wanted to come over here, and I needed to install the parking lot for that area as well. So here I knew it wasn't going to be a very large parking lot at all, just because of the space that I had. And that is what dictates a lot of what I do in this build. And in a way, I find it a great thing because I really needed that guidance. I needed to sort of have it tell me how much space I have or not. Um, because that sort of gets me to play around within that space and figure out what can I do with it, what can I not do with it, how will I get it to fit in. So I went ahead and took that space out there, and then we're going to go ahead and asphalt in these spaces. We'll go ahead and have this attach all the way to the road. I have found also that I love the stamping tool and the fact that I can sort of use it as uh, with the X, Y, and Z axis in order to get it to be where I basically want it. So here's a perfect example. I don't want it all the way up to that sidewalk. Other than where I put the one piece, it's all the way up to the sidewalk. So with that, I go ahead and I move it back from there, and then I go ahead and start putting in my pieces. Last piece here needs to be trimmed up just slightly. And there we go. Then I had to sort of figure out how I wanted to do this here because I do want the asphalt going all the way up to the marble, but not taking over where the marble is. So I realized that I had to do it a few different steps in order to make it work. And so with that, what I needed to do was angle some pieces of asphalt here in order to fit correctly with the pieces of marble that are there. And then I'll have to go out here and put in the rest of the asphalt from that point on. So here I'm just sort of seeing what I've got as far as spacing and stuff, because again, I do want to have enough room for cars to pass these the parking spaces in a realistic sense. So was trying to figure out if I had enough space there or not, and adjusting based on it. I also found that rock that was just buried in the ground. No idea why it's there. No idea where it came from, really. So I adjust all the pieces best I can. Um, do have that rock that's sort of distracting me a little bit there, not gonna lie. But get it to where I think it looks good, and we'll go ahead and sort of mark that off as done. We do have to adjust the pathway here because of the fact that there's that slight cutout in the ground. So then we come back here and I start working on some of the housing. Now this housing, I've already got in mind what it is. This housing is going to actually be military housing, or at least that was its original purpose. It is going to still, I will say in a way, be military housing, but the rationale and the reason for it has changed from when it was originally used. Um, and that will be developed more in the story. I don't want to say much more because I want it to be a surprise for readers when you get to the book where this comes up. For right now, all the reader needs to know is this is sort of seems to be military housing. That's why it's all uniform in its look, and it's going to be all it's going to have a couple of rows of it here. I did decide I didn't like the colors of it, so I wanted to change those. I realized if I clicked all of them, I can move them, but I can't change the colors of them. Basically, I could change the colors of 3 of them at a time. So I decided I wanted to do that, wanted to play around with the colors some. Again, we're going blue and black in this town. So originally I had tried the blue, did not like it there. So we go with the black instead, and we go with just a little bit of detailing that's the blue. I felt like that worked really well. They still have that same uniform feel to them. And if anything, I feel like they feel even more blocky because they don't have the different colors to them. And that's sort of what I wanted there. I wanted them to be different. I did realize that the roofs on those first 3 did not get color changed to match each other. So I do have to go back in and take care of that here in a minute. But that's where we're going to pretty much be wrapping up this episode. Is we're going to get a lot of this military housing done in the middle of town here. In the next episode, we're going to continue with detailing the military housing with some fencing and such, I believe. Don't think I get that done in this episode. Um, we're also going to have a little play area for the kids of the military families and such that'll be here. Um, then we will move on to some of the other housing that's going to go on here. There's a couple more buildings I still want to add to the town. I realize the town sort of needed in a way, so those will be getting added. So just a lot going on still, a lot to take shape. But at the same time, I feel like the biggest parts are done at this point because we have the overall structure laid out and we have the majority of the important buildings for the town laid out. Okay, so I had not realized that I had done all this fencing work in this particular episode, but I evidently did. So yeah, I was trying to get the fencing to fit properly. I tried just sort of a copy and paste method, and it works fine on the sides where there are no doorways and such. It does not really work for the areas with the doors. So you'll see here in a minute that in the end, I end up scrapping this area on the side. I try to copy and paste it, just doesn't work. Really, what I need to do instead is I need to do each one and create sort of an individual piece that I can fit in between. So, as I said, I was trying to do this, just didn't like how it came out. Um, was hopeful that it would work, and just really didn't. Was trying to save time, is really what it came down to. And what I learned with this project is, especially with this, where it matters so much to me for my book, I can't just cut corners and stuff. I really have to do things the best way that I can. And so, yeah, we go ahead and scrap all of this. We do it specific for the location. I go ahead and blend the fences in as need be in order to make them fit. Don't do any like pathways or stuff from the door and such, which I could have done, but I didn't feel that was that necessary here. Again, yes, I do want it to look good and everything, but the fact of the matter is, the whole point of this is going to be for inspiration for my book, and the images you're going to see of it for the within the book and stuff. I may put some AI generated images, but those images are going to be very much of particular things that affect the story that you're reading at the time. So, if, for example, I do have a story that comes back to this military housing and I wanted a picture of it, then I probably would go ahead and edit and put in, say, some concrete sidewalk going from the houses to the actual sidewalk and stuff. But for right now, I think it's okay the way it is. Um, Really, what it might have is some flagstones or something like that to get you from the door and such. But as I said, overall, I think it works fine. It's just something very straightforward and basic there in order for it to look a little bit friendly. It's got the little picket fences outside of it. But this is military housing. It's going to be done on the cheap in order to just ensure that the military personnel and their families are housed and fed and everything of that nature that they need. So, as I said, once I got that piece sort of that worked for me, I was able to just use it in order to fill out the area properly. Um, Not sure what I'm struggling with right there, but it wasn't working exactly as I had hoped. So, got the pieces then to line up with the doors appropriately. Decided I will try copy and pasting this over to the other side because in theory now it should work since the pieces are in the proper spacing overall. I will have to adjust it from right to left in order to fit between the doors, which I do there. Seems to work okay, so I'm okay with that. Just tweaking it a little bit. And then I have to do the end pieces still. So you put that one in. Then we'll go ahead and put this. There's that little gap there, so we'll just move this over just to touch it, and that'll work out fine, I think. So as you saw, I did put in the little playground there. As I said, I hadn't realized I had done all of this in the same episode, but I did, so it is the way it is. We've got that in here. Originally, I thought about playing around with this. Wasn't going to be a bank here, but just sort of having this in this location. And I don't end up putting it here, and that's a good thing because I do end up putting something else there. I do want a bank, but not in that location. And we've already got the bank taken care of. What I want instead, I thought fit more appropriately here. We're going to go ahead and build it out as a building. because it does need to be a bit deeper than what they had originally. And with this one, I figured, what I'm going to do is simply continue the building as it was from where it is just out to where I need it to be. Curious if you can guess what this is going to be, since it is not a bank, but it's something that's going to look sort of like a bank, but it needs to be deeper. We'll see what your guesses are and see if you get it right as I put all this in. Realized I actually need those pieces back there, so let's just move them back there. And then we'll just use this piece and this piece to cover the sides. Again, really not reinventing this building in any way, shape, or form, but simply making it work for what I need it to. Again, the same thing here. Simply copying what they had done already. Here, I want to go ahead and take this, move it to the back of the building. And we'll go ahead and copy this along to fit this area. For some reason, I was missing one piece of wood in these areas, so just fill it in there. Worked out perfectly fine. Then we'll have to go ahead and cover this with a nice piece of trim along the back there. Perfect. All right. So we also needed these windows along the sides of the building here, because the building is bigger now. Originally, I was struggling with putting them in because they aren't really window. I don't know what they were exactly, but they didn't function like a window. They weren't a one-piece type of thing. So instead, I went through, I looked and saw what could I use that was going to be similar in size and style, or I could scale up to the size and style that I wanted, and then went with those. Took me a little bit to find what I wanted. But I felt like these definitely worked well enough. Again, these are side windows to it, so they're not going to be as noticeable. And to give you another hint, this building has a garage door to it. So if you haven't been able to guess yet, I will change the name of it here. We also have to put in this stepping that seems to be missing here, so that's something I'm doing right here. But we'll change the name of it to be appropriate for what it is. This is going to become a post office, because every town does need a post office. So we needed one here for Graves Point. I figured having it along the main drag sort of worked well. Just wanted to see what that looked like. Wasn't planning on using it by any means. So we've got that over there. I also went ahead and changed this to be the town hall at this point, because we definitely are not big enough for this to be a city. It is a town. So felt like that worked out nicely. Got that changed. As I said, we're really going through and getting quite a bit done on the place overall, and just sort of figuring out the needs of the community as well as filling up some of the space. Now, again, here we've got a parking lot in the back of this location for the different shops here and such, but I wanted to go ahead and have a parking lot here in the front for the post office and such. So, went ahead and got that. Basically, wanted to line it up so that it went all the way to the curb nicely. And then we can move the building forward to fit into that location. Trying to be lazy and not have to go to the feature to do more land. I should have probably just done the land. It would have been easier than the way I did it, but it worked out well enough. And then we need sort of an entrance area here for it, so we got that in. Deleted that little bit of extra there. Getting rid of this sidewalk because we don't need their sidewalk. We have our own sidewalk. But I decided, you know what? We'll leave it. We'll make it a feature instead. And then we just needed to move the building very slightly to block off that last little bit there. Now we've got an empty space next to the building and wasn't sure what I wanted to do with that space. So came over here looking for couple different things that I was wanting to add to the town. We needed fire hydrants. I like these color changing ones here. They worked out nicely. So I play around with those a little bit and start putting them around town. Just put them over here so that way I could copy the one that I wanted into the different locations that I wanted it. I really probably need more fire hydrants than I put out, but they at least are in some locations and they give you a sense of where they should be overall, which is the key point. Want one definitely by the Walmart because Walmart doesn't need to burn down. Probably need some over by the military housing as well as by the gas station. Don't want the gas station catching fire. That would be a really bad thing. So putting them out in different places. Have one over here by the hospital. One by the movie theater. One up here by this hotel. Started putting them over by the school, but then I realized, you know what? I've got this blue one. Why wouldn't I put the blue one over by the school? Because the school's colors are blue, might as well have a hydrant that is appropriately colored for it. So I'll move that last red one over by the McDonald's, leave it there, it's good to go. And for the school area instead, we will go ahead and use the school colors. Don't know if you're allowed to do that with fire hydrants. Do they have to be red? Not exactly sure. So I didn't have them red here, and I mean, really, who's going to complain too much about the fire hydrant not being red? I don't think anybody in this town is going to. They're going to have much bigger issues to worry about than the color of some fire hydrants. So getting those done. While I was over here, I realized I did not have pathways leading to the basketball arena, so I needed to change that. As I said, it's just while I'm working on this, I'm doing one thing and then I'm seeing, oh good lord, I have this that I need to add, Then I have this that I need to add, and it just becomes a trickle down effect. It really did become overwhelming at points in time where I just felt like I'm never going to get this done. So I am happy that it did all work out, and I'm really happy that it came out looking the way that it did in the end. Because I had my doubts at points. I really did. I wasn't sure if it would work, um, but I'm pleased with the product that I got. So now going around the school itself and putting some pathing. Just making sure that it lined up with the door properly. Here I realize I'm going to have to do from both the door and this direction because I need to make it sort of match up. And again, the XYZ feature on it really does help with that. Makes it work quite nicely to get your lines straight and where you want them. So really in this episode, quite a bit's been done. We've done some of the basic things like putting in some pathing. We've put in an entire hotel. We put in a post office. We put in the rest of the details for the hospital. Um, we put in the sort of base housing. As I said, quite pleased with the way this went. Now with that all being done, I sort of wanted to decide what I wanted to put in this last location here. Because we have this spot next to the post office. It is along the main street, and I decided, you know what, I want something that's going to fit, and especially with a nice view of the water and such. And I thought, you know what's better than that? What I would like in a location like this? Why don't we have sort of a mom and pop ice cream shop? We've got a pizza place. Why not a nice little ice cream shop to go along with it? Um, Maybe they do burgers and fries as well and stuff, but realistically, their main thing is gonna be just doing the ice cream. I didn't want the building matching up exactly with the other ones, so went with it being slightly bigger. And just the corners don't fit exactly, and I like that because I didn't want things to start appearing too planned, too matchy, if that makes sense. So, wanted it to be slightly off from the other one. Um, that way it just felt better overall. So, moving the whole system around there a little bit, and then we can go ahead and do the concrete all the way across now. So we've got this pathing. That will just sort of match for the whole area. Didn't want to go all the way to the curb there, as I like having a little bit of green showing. Taking out those pieces, finding the window pieces that'll work, putting those in. Not sure why that one window on the front is a different size. Could not really figure it out. Definitely was something I did that caused that, but not sure what. But you know what? It works. I'm okay with it. It's not even that visible. You won't really notice it too much unless you're really staring at it, and that's fine by me. I don't have windows along the back wall because that's where the restaurant, the kitchen would be and such. So that way, you know, that's where they'd make your burger and fries and have their ice cream machines, everything like that. Really, this building is inspired for me definitely by our local Dairy Queen that we have here in town. I have fond memories growing up of going to the Dairy Queen with my mom and dad, and I used to love when they'd have the little helmets. Don't know if you guys remember or not, but they had these little helmets for baseball season, especially for each of the different teams. And they did it a couple times for the football season as well. The NFL ones were not as good because they didn't really have a face mask to them. It sort of looked cheap with those ones. But the baseball ones really actually looked good, I thought. And it was just a fun experience to get to go with mom and dad and go to this place, have my ice cream, get some soft serve that had just was a really nice soft serve with the hard chocolate, sort of chocolate that sort of hardens in normal room temperature on top. And yeah, I loved it. It was a fun experience. It was one of my fond memories of summer. And so I was like, that is the kind of place I want here in my town. We do have the diner, but the diner isn't going to be open all the time in the series. Things are going to happen where the diner may have to close down for a while and such as they try to figure out what's going on with themselves. So, more I thought about it, I figure, you know what? Having a place like this works. And with tourism and stuff, I think you could definitely have both businesses be open. The diner could do more your standard fare, and the ice cream shop would be more just a Dairy Queen-esque type place, where it would do sort of basic foods along with ice cream. And I can imagine as a kid just sitting there and looking out at the water of the lake and such while you're enjoying your cone or your cup. It would be a perfect place. It'd be a fun place to grow up in that aspect. Not with, the demons and monsters and everything that are going on in the town. But for the ice cream and stuff, it'd be nice. Like these doors well enough, and so we just put those on. And then needed some theming for this place. So I wanted a sign, definitely. Felt this was going to work well here. And then I had an idea for this. Took me a little bit to get it done properly. For one, I didn't realize that this was one-sided at first. I thought it was two-sided. Don't know why I did, or why I didn't notice that it was only one-sided. But what I wanted to do was sort of a four-way sign there, just as a big icon on top of the location. So went ahead with that. Decided to make this bigger. So it took up the spacing on the wall here. Again, here's one where I could have used the sign as it was, but I liked the sign style, but I wanted to add my own text to it. So we'll put the editable text on top of the sign, narrow it down so that it fits onto the sign like it's always been intended to be there, even though it didn't have it in the first place. So originally I was going to go with Carlos's Creamery, but doing the apostrophe S at the end just looked weird. I didn't like it. So instead we went with Charlie's Creamery. Sorry, Carlos, you didn't get your creamery in the end. I still haven't noticed at this point that the signs are one-sided only, so hopefully I will here in just a moment or two. I was thinking about doing it 8-sided, and that just didn't look as good. And I think this is when I realized, wait a second, these are only one-sided on here. So I go ahead and make the adjustment. The problem is they are not exactly symmetrical, so I have to even them up as best as I can. It's fiddly and it's not going to be perfect, but I'm okay with it. The little bit of an outline that it creates isn't the end of the world. I don't think it's noticeable. I do look at the 8-sided again, don't really like it. And so that's where we end things. If you enjoyed the video, please go ahead and click that like button. And if you're not already, please subscribe to the channel. Click the bell icon so you're aware when I produce new videos in the future. Thank you, and I hope to see you back for more Graves Point.